If you're old enough to remember getting hyped to that trailer, then you probably know where I'm coming from when I ask, whatever happened to MapleStory? I haven't logged on to MapleStory in roughly 5.5 years, and although my characters are still there, the game I remember playing and spending countless of hours on is long gone. I started playing MapleStory in late 2005 on the North American server, and back when I started, it's what you may call the dark days. We only had 3 worlds to select from, 4 classes excluding beginner, and leveling up was the definition of grind. Now, when I say dark days, that was what my friends and I thought back in 2006. But I have to say, after coming back to the game on 2 separate occasions after a long time off, I truly believe MapleStory's dark days are these days. MapleStory at one point in time was made up of a truly special community and just an overall fun and lighthearted environment. Yes, back in 2006, getting to level 30 could take weeks, if not months, depending on how much of a grind you're willing to put yourself through. And just to put it in perspective, leveling was such a difficult task for us casuals that the high levels of the likes of Tiger and Sushi made them Maple celebrities of sorts. But the difficulty as well as the smaller scope of the game was, in hindsight, the variable that made it so fun. With only a few worlds to choose from and only 20 channels on a server, training spots became scarce quick due to the large population of players. Some would share, but most would call it a wash and go chill in a town and socialize with a plethora of different people, and I was definitely a part of that group of players. The way I looked at it, MapleStory became more of a conduit to meet and talk with interesting and friendly people from all over the world rather than a hardcore grind RPG. And while I did both during my time playing, it was the socializing aspect that kept me going. Now, skipping forward to late 2008, after making a few really good friends and a long, grueling journey to reach our 3rd jobs with our main characters, we slowly but surely stopped playing the game, due to a variety of factors, but mostly due to the fact that we were entering high school. It wasn't until I heard about the Big Bang patch in 2010 that I was enticed to check out the scene once more. And although none of my old friends played the game anymore, from a gameplay sense, I got everything I wished for back in 2006. The game's scope became enormous, there were a variety of different classes, areas, quests, game modes, and the best part, leveling was no longer near the grind it used to be. It's fair to say that I was hyped. The game was infused with new and exciting content, and that's how I came back to playing. I made a bunch of new characters reach levels I never would have imagined possible beforehand, but it wasn't before long that I realized that there was something missing. I eventually quit the game for good back in late 2011, and I couldn't articulate it back then, but the thing that was missing was in essence the game's soul. What I mean by that is that while the game kept getting an influx of new content and was expanding to great lengths, the world of MapleStory felt like a wasteland. It was empty. MapleStory in its heyday was never about the lore of the world, it was more about the fun people who occupied it. The game took away the difficulty of leveling up and thinned out the player base per server by expanding so rapidly, and before I knew it, I was barely talking to anyone who wasn't an NPC, and the game just felt so lonely and hollow you could hardly tell that it was an online experience anymore. Coming back 5.5 years later to see if perhaps the game has changed, I was a bit saddened to find out that it seemed to have continued on the same expansion path the Big Bang started. And in all honesty, as flashy and full of content as it may be, the MapleStory of 2017 is quite the shell of itself from 10 years prior. And while I know that I'll probably never venture back to play the game once more, I'll always cherish the fun times and great memories I got from playing MapleStory, as it was during an era that was quite special to be a part of.